All right, we're always happy to bring on the great Geoff Schwartz on the podcast, an Oregon legend, a rising media mogul, I would say, a longtime teammate of my co-host Jonathan Stewart. Jeff, what's up, man? How you doing?
Good, it's a fun time of year, right? We got draft and then we got spring ball. Now, Oregon's actually doing spring ball like normal. Everyone else is chickening out, no spring
Yeah.
games. We're not gonna put on pads as much, and Oregon's doing the full thing. I love it.
Yeah, Dan said that. He's like, as long as I'm here, we are gonna have a spring
I
game. I
saw
was like,
that.
I love that. That's great.
Yeah. I saw some clips of UCLA with Deshaun Foster. They did some live tackling drills, little one-on-ones with the linebackers and
Good.
running backs. Yeah. So
They need to be tougher. That's what you have
yeah.
to do. I don't
Yeah.
look, man. It's crazy that the best teams in the country each and every year, what do they do well, right? They block and they tackle. The only way you practice blocking and tackling is you hit in practice. It's the only way to do it.
Exactly. Yeah, as a player, I remember certain days where we might have gotten a bone or two too many, right? Like, oh man, we lucked out and didn't have to hit today. And knowing we just came off of a game where we didn't block, we didn't tackle, we didn't do a lot of things well, but we got a bone today, maybe because of the weather, whatever it is. It's like, man, I hope these guys are prepared because we didn't practice any of that today because we just got bum rushed last week. But yeah, man, you got to toughen up a little bit in this, and especially in college right now. There's so much going on where we don't really know what is to be expected in the future when it comes to what college football is going to look like. So it's good to know that we have a coach that understands how to keep the main thing the main thing.
Exactly.
Well, there are a million things to get to, but Jeff, first of all, thank you for coming on. I have to ask, how was Mexico?
It was good. We went to a resort we've been to before. We met John knows him, Dave Fatete and his family down in Mexico. So we had a great time. We went like a week early for spring break, which I don't know, maybe frowned upon. So we're actually on spring break now. We had to meet. Their spring break was a week early this year. Last year we had the same spring break. I don't really know why. So now we're in South Carolina. So kids are certainly enjoying the no school atmosphere for one more week. And but you know what? Like football sort of never stops. It took off last week for the most part with doing media. Just got been basically going straight since August, and it was nice. But now I'm ready to start. I got a college win total article coming out today on Fox Sports. I mean, we're rolling. It's that time of year when you start looking ahead to next year.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, let's get right into it. I want to start in the NFL ranks before getting down to the college level and Oregon in general. To start, I want your take on the Ducks' two big offensive line prospects in the upcoming draft. Let's start with Conerly. If you can, take off your Oregon hat for a second and just break him down. What do you see? What do you like? What do you dislike? Where do you think he ends up? Because there are some people who think that he, could slide into the second round or maybe a late first round pick. Kind of what do you see when you look at him?
Well, first, I mean, look, the thing about where you're drafted, look, sometimes it's better to be drafted in the right place than be drafted the highest you can possibly be. So the right place might be in the second round for him. It doesn't mean he's less of a player. Also, just depends on the draft breaks down, right? I mean, we're seeing it now with even Shedeur Sanders. Like, does he go 2? Does he go 3? Does he go 9? Does he go 21? I mean, depending on where these guys go, it changes how the draft board is going to break down, right? Is there a trade up for someone? Obviously, if there's a big run on tackles early, that might help Conerly. If there's not, then that maybe push him down the board a little bit. I'd imagine that, like most of the players in this draft, he probably has a grade somewhere around a low first round, early second round grade. So it would make sense if he went 21, or maybe he sneaks up to 12 or 11 with the Niners, or he goes in the top of the second round. So that to me is unimportant. When you look at him as a player, I think you have to love the upside, right? He's still very young. He's a young football player. He's a true junior. I think he's still 21, right? He'll be 22, I believe, by the time he takes the field next year. But there's just a lot of room for growth. I think what you love about him is that his last 6 weeks of the season were better than his first 6 weeks of the season, right? You saw a player that developed over the season as he kind of grew into being a better football player. Like people think you come in automatically and you start as a young player and you're good all of a sudden. That's just not the case, right? Very rare. No one's Panay Sewell. You're winning the Alum Trophy at 17, right? It doesn't work that way. So I think we saw from him this year a lot of growth, and he really accumulated with playing really well against Carter in the Big Ten championship game. And the hard part about evaluating all these college offensive linemen, Conerly and others, is the offense you play in college is just not the offense you play in the NFL. But I do think in Oregon's offense, they do enough drop back passing to where it does feel real, right? So when you see his footwork and his hand placement, he just has to get stronger. That's what I see most. It just got to be stronger, and some of that comes with maturity and age. Some of it comes with more in the weight room. I don't think Oregon did less in the weight room than they should have with him, but he needs to play stronger. And part of that is figuring out how to unlock your hips and your hands at the same time. But that's my number one concern with him. Is his hands can be erratic, but that's a common thing with college offensive linemen. But to me, he's just got to play stronger. We got to get him stronger.
Yeah. When you're talking about, the technique and hand placement and hands kind of crazy, Oregon ran as far as their passing game, Dylan Gabriel's getting the ball out really quick. And so not having to necessarily block as long in this offense, you can kind of hide technique behind that, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So hopefully those types of things come to fruition. Like he's working on those types of things and getting involved in some type of practice habits that are allowing him to actually work on his hand placement and all those things.
Look, that's the thing that I got this argument the other day on social media about true pass sets. And, it's just, there's not a lot of them. And the thing that people do not understand about this, okay, is that play action pass, you can study those reps. You have to play action pass in the NFL also. So that you don't throw them out. Okay. And oftentimes you are one-on-one if you're a tackle or a guard. It's a one-on-one, it's an important rep to study. And we throw those out in the name of true pass sets. But also, look, there are offenses even in the NFL that are harder on tackles than others, right? The Eagles and Chiefs, for example, okay, their tackles on an island the entire game. There's no help ever. Okay, those are harder offenses than someone who plays. You might have 20 pass reps in the Falcons offense, and it's far different than 20 pass reps for the Chiefs or the Eagles offense. And so this true pass set thing, I feel like it's just a crutch we use to not evaluate the players based on what they actually show on film. But it is worth noting that, again, if you are a team that does an RPO and a play action pass and a wide zone and then a quick pass and 7 plays in, it's your first actual rep of pass rush. Well, the defensive lineman is not ready to rush the passer as well, right? Versus a college that might pass the ball a lot more. So I think those are all worth evaluating. But again, to me, Conerly has the physical skill set, right? We see his quick feet. We see how he can redirect. I think he's a good job of redirecting. A little top heavy at times, hands miss, things like that. But to me, I just see more play strength.
Does it matter to you at all? I mean, how much does it factor in that this past year, at least, he was not the blindside blocker because he had a lefty QB? Does that matter at all?
No, because you don't see guys switch sides at all anymore. I mean, it doesn't really happen, and your responsibility is the same. The guy on the backside, I guess, in theory, you're going to end up with probably more guys trying to rush around you to knock the ball out of the quarterback's hand. But I don't know. You can do the same thing if you're on the front side too. So, and because everyone's in gun now, Gabriel can see the backside now. Even it used to be under center, you never saw. You just took a drop and you turn your back. But now, I mean, you just take a ball and you stand where you are. You can see both sides. So I'm not that concerned about that.
Before we get to Cornelius, like you mentioned earlier, the place that you get drafted may be just as important as where you're drafted. I saw today in ESPN's mock draft with Mel Kiper and Field Yates, they had him at, I believe, 31 to Kansas City. To me, that feels like a pretty ideal spot for him to end up. What do you think?
Look, I'm a Chiefs fan. I do not want them to draft a tackle again. They've gone down this road. They need a deep. My dream actually is that Derek Harmon falls to 31. Probably impossible. But that's who I really hope the Chiefs end up with. I don't know how that happens. Maybe we have to put out a gas mask video to get him to drop at 31. But that's ideal for I just don't. The Chiefs have gone the project left tackle. I'm not saying Connery's a project, but the idea they just signed a left tackle, a young kid from the 49ers. He's got to play. They were going to move Kingsley inside, I think, to left guard. Like, they don't need Conerly; they need a pass rusher. So much attention in that game was focused on the Chiefs' offensive line. The defense line did not touch Jalen Hurts the entire game. So look, would it be a good fit? Yeah, great. Be winning franchise. Andy Reid's a good offensive line coach, but I hope he doesn't go to the Chiefs because I don't think he's going to play early on. And there's just not that opportunity to get on the field in year one.
So if we see a gas mask video, we know where it came from.
Yeah, it's me. Yeah, I got him. Yeah. I mean, I think Derek Harmon is really good. I don't think that.
Yeah.
I feel like the national media is slowly catching up to that now. I know, like, Dane Brugler has him ranked second for defensive tackles. Nate Tice has brought him up to me. He had over 50 pressures at defensive tackle last season. That's hard to do in college football. So he's a really good. He's tall too. I mean, he reminds me a little of size of, like, he looks like Chris Jones. He's not as good, obviously. I hate comparing guys to Hall of Famers, but like that size reminds me of Chris Jones. He's not as twitchy yet. Doesn't have that pass rush yet of Chris Jones, but dude is big, man. He's at 6'5". He's a giant defensive tackle.
Well, in that same mock draft, he went 21 to the Steelers. So we'll see if he's around there for you at 31, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's, mid-teens to early 20s.
I hope he's there.
So that Penn State game, I think it was Penn State. Derek Harmon, he had a tough go in that game, if I recall. What are some, like, because one of the things that I like to do is when I watch a guy or people talking about certain guys in the draft, I like to go to their worst game. And he played Penn State, and they had his number. He did not have an impact the way you would want your go-to guy at the line of scrimmage, to make an impact. I mean, he caused a ruckus in the Ohio State game. And for whatever reason, Penn State and the physicality there, as far as how they run their ship, it was unmatched.
Well, I think that entire. I think that, it's interesting. The end of the season, I was a little disappointed in the Ducks' run defense. I feel like we got run over in general. Now, I made this point. I'll make it again. I think a lot of it was the linebackers at times. They just, didn't. Boss is a safety, like that's what he played. As a young player, I think it shows at times. And Betcher is a fun story. He's a great tackler, but I don't think he reads runs very well. And that really cost us in that game. It cost us Ohio State.
Especially gaps game, right?
I think they're worst. I think they're really, really slow to fill in zone. If Betcher can play between both B gaps, he's fine. Any sort of zone stuff outside. So that's what happened against Penn State. They just hooked our defensive linemen, and just the linebackers are so slow over the top to read. They had no chance. So I'm kind of curious how the young guys, we got 5 young linebackers they're ready to play. I'm curious to see how quickly they can, because I think that was the biggest hole in the defense last year. It wasn't Harmon or Caldwell, even though I do agree in that game they got pushed around a little bit. Our linebackers are slow to develop. They're good athletes, and Betcher tackles really, like, they tackle well when they get there. They just don't. It takes a little bit of time to get there.
Let's talk about Cornelius. It felt like going into last year, he was considered the guy that a lot of people would project as a day 1 or day 2 draft pick because, he decided to come back for one more year. We knew he came to Oregon from Rhode Island with the expectations of going to the draft being a high-end pick. It didn't quite play out that way. I'm not really sure why. I don't have the offensive line eye like you do. Why do you think it didn't play out that way? And, like, what's your kind of sense for what his NFL future is?
I was a little surprised. We've seen a lot of players get better at Oregon. I don't think he did last season. To start with the Idaho game, like he gave up a sack in that. You're like, I think it's a strip sack. I mean, not the whole offensive line didn't play well in that game, but you're like, buddy, you're supposed to be preseason. People had him first round grade. He just, he looked like he lost confidence, honestly, in his pass sets. There wasn't a lot of, and he's more of a catcher. So there's different ways to pass protect, right? You can sort of punch guys, right, with 2 hands, 1 hand either way. You can double under, sort of just like 2 hands forklift a guy, which if you want to watch, like Lane Johnson's got his arms go down to his knees, he can easily do that. Cornelius more, and then you can catch. Like Joe Thomas was a big, like, kind of just like catch guy. He grabbed onto you. He didn't really punch you all the time, but he just circled his hands and grabbed. But he's so strong. Like Cornelius is sort of a grabber, right? Like, and that's fine. That works. It's not like it doesn't work, but you have to have your timing has to be perfect when you do that. And his timing was just off. He was trying to get guys and he'd lean and fall and they'd kind of circle by him. He didn't play well against Penn State. So it looked like a guy just lost his confidence. And just like in any sport, right? You lose your confidence. It's hard to get back in the middle of the season. Each and every week teams target you. They watch the same film we watch, and they see, okay, we can't go left side, right? Like that's locked down. And the way that Shredder played left guard, like you weren't rushing the passer on that side. So you look at, the right side, right? Especially when, Luli, right? Is that how you pronounce his last name?
I think it's Ayuli.
Ayuli, like when he was in there, you got a young cat there. Like they just went on the right side, So it dropped his grade a lot. I'm not disappointed to him. It's his loss, but yeah, he did not get better this season.
Where do you see him? Is it day 2? Is it day 3? I mean,
it's probably day 3. It's probably day 3 now. Again, like he has the strength concerns that I have with, but again, a lot of guys have strength concerns. To me, it's just, again, like a lack of maybe transferable skills. He can't grab like that. He's got a punch in the NFL, and you have to project that out, right? Can you teach a guy to do that? He's strong enough to make it happen.
Schwartz, going back to your last year at Oregon, I just remember one of the things about that year was you. It was like, well, you and Dennis, in my opinion, as far as like the trajectory, as far as where expectations might have been for you at Oregon.
Yeah.
You met them that year.
Yeah.
That year alone, I was like, good God, like he's angry, like he's more mean. Like, I don't know what it was, but walk us through kind of your, you're going into your last season at Oregon, and then just that draft, just going into the draft experience and just kind of hoping, whatever clicked pays off.
Yeah. So, my sophomore year
and how it clicked.
Yeah.
Like what happened.
Yeah. So my junior year, which is your sophomore year, that was a Vegas Bowl year. It was kind of a dumpster fire for the entire team, but I had a back injury all season. I just didn't play well. I heard I remember week 1 of training camp, I had the drop foot where like your foot, like you're going to get taped and you have to put your ankle like up, you have to flex your ankle to be taped, right? So they can make it, but I couldn't lift my ankle up because my nerve in my back was being pinched. And then that causes the leg muscle, the shin and calf muscle to not work. So I couldn't even lift, like I should have just gotten surgery. I had a redshirt year. Well, you're 20. I'm like, screw it. I'm going to play, right? Like I should have taken a redshirt year. So I didn't. I played pretty bad that year. And, so now I'm going into my senior year, and you start talking to agents and whatnot. And one of them ended up being my agent was Derek Gilmore, who was like the previously like head of recruiting. I'm sure I don't know if he was still recruiting when you were.
I remember him. I saw him in New Orleans at Super Bowl.
Yeah. So, sorry about that. So, Derek was like, dude, if you want to get drafted, you got to start dumping people in the field. Like you just do. Like you got to play better. And I was like, okay. And I just decided to do that. I mean, and I was healthy too, which makes it big. I had surgery in January, and then by the time camp started again in July, I was really healthy, and that played a role in it too. But just again, like he told me, like if you want to play in the NFL, you better start pancaking people and showing aggression and trying to finish. And it's something that Greatwood would really try to impress on me as well. But it's one thing. So Greatwood and I, and I've seen Steve since then. I mean, he knows this, but like we just didn't have a great relationship. I would say that junior season, I was hurt, and when you're hurt, you're just kind of. It's hard to tell coaches you're hurt because coaches, this is something about the sport. If you play on Saturday or Sunday, you're considered healthy. It does not matter whether or not you feel healthy or not. Like they don't watch your film and go, you know what, Schwartz is back. It was a little hurt today. No, right? You get graded based on your performance when you're on the field as though you're healthy. It's hard for young players to understand this. Like you don't want to sit out, obviously, but then you realize like they hold it against you, if you're playing hurt. So I just like that junior year was Coach Greatwood. I got benched for a game. We lost to Arizona, got murdered by Arizona in that game. My backup who went and didn't play well. Like I came back in and like the next week, like I just I didn't have a good relationship with him. And so that year, two things. One is that, again, Derek was like, bro, you want to get drafted, you better start paying people. It's not that simple, obviously, but just you need to play more aggressive. And two
Just
was
light
like,
a fire on your
yeah,
behind.
right. And two was like, Greatwood and I made a concerted effort to talk to him every single day and be like, Coach, what can I do better? What I is, the way the old facility was, you'd have to basically walk by the coach's offices to get to the offensive line meeting room, which is our team meeting room. So I'd walk by every day and be like, pop my head in, like, Coach, what can I do better today? What can I and just get a better relationship with Coach. So like, if there was an issue, we could talk about it, or he could help me get better. Like, I wanted to be better. And then also too, like this, the third thing is I started seeing a sports psychologist. I think it was that year, end of that season. I think I started, maybe that spring is when I started seeing someone, because my dad was like, I'm tired of talking to you about, not in those terms, but like, you need to find someone else. Like, you just have to find someone else. Like, I'm your dad. Like, I'm not your sports coach essentially anymore. Like, you're an adult. Like, you need to talk to someone who's not me. And it was probably the best decision I've ever made, to go find someone. So all those combinations, just again, mentally training my brain to play better, someone telling me basically, you're not going to get drafted if you don't do this, and having a better relationship with my offensive line coach, all three played a role in me playing much better. I was not good my junior year. And so, yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of kids out there should hear that, because it's not just what you do on the field; it's how you are off the field. It's how you are in your preparation, your awareness. Like the fact that you had the awareness to say, "Look, I need to go talk to a therapist," like about football. Yes, football, and but the thought that comes across is when scouts come to go check on, how's this player, how's that player, they're going to go talk to your coach.
Yeah.
That's the number one guy they're going to go talk to. Like, how is Jeff in the meeting rooms? Is he attentive? Does he care about his craft? And your coach is going to have to give them the correct answers, which is, for your case, he checked in every day, asked how he can get better. So that's awesome.
Just, do you got anything else NFL, or should we get to Oregon?
I do.
Yeah, go for it.
It's more. Where do you see as far as the strength in this draft? Like, I mean, I know we'll probably talk a little bit, next week, but I want to know kind of what your thoughts on the strength of this draft, because in my opinion, the draft is like not that great outside of like maybe 10 players. But then the rest of the rounds, you're going to get your typical second round, third round, fourth round guys. But I feel like there's a lot of those guys that are going to creep in to the first round.
Yeah. So this is basically there's six premium guys at the top of the draft. And again, like in most drafts, you only have, maybe at the most 15 to 17 guys that have first round grades, to be honest. But you talk to anyone, they'll tell you six premium guys. They're basically going to be, I'm not even sure Cam Ward counts in this, but Cam Ward, Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, Will Campbell, Mason Graham, Genty, and then I think Membu's part of that. So that might be seven. I'm not even sure Cam Ward's considered a premium player, just the fact he's going number one because of the position. And then it's just a bunch of guys that, again, like most years might be drafted a little bit later, but there's quality in this draft, right? There's just not maybe the on paper now, like all Pro Bowl level guys, like I think that's fair to say. Look, I think running back it's a great running back class.
It's a great running back class.
It's a great run. You probably have two in the first round. I actually think the Hampton kid might be better pro than Genty, to be fair. Like, I think Hampton, just the way he plays, and he's in the pass game, he's a little more electric in the pass game. But I will say, you put Genty behind a good offensive line in the NFL. I mean, his offensive line in Boise wasn't great, but you put him in the NFL. Like it's so, wide receiver is a deep position this season. I feel like, but maybe not again like the best of the guys compared to other draft classes. And the defensive tackle, I mean, Greg Cosell, I think, put out there that he might see 20 defensive tackles, or defensive linemen, I should say, edge rushers drafted in the first 3 rounds. Like, it's going to be first 2 rounds. It's going to be maybe the first 2 rounds. It's a very pass rush heavy draft. You're going to get a lot of guys. If you need a pass rusher, and there's some guys that are listed at linebacker. Like everyone sort of has mock drafted Walker from Georgia to the Panthers at 8. I mean, he's listed as a linebacker. He's a pass rusher. So you might even get more guys more guys drafted that are linebackers that are actually more edge rushers.
Yeah. I'm in love with a guy named Kenneth Grant.
Oh, the big fella in Michigan. He just has to develop a pass rush.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big boy though.
But like the guy that's going to stop the run, get in there.
Like second round for the Panthers, like that's a guy like is it for the Panthers who, unfortunately, I was going to do a show with you next week. I got to go to New York. I can't do it. The draft show. But yeah, I mean, he's a guy like the Panthers who need that as much help on defense as possible, like early second round pick. Like that's a big fella that can help them with Brown being back. But yeah, I think again, it's a quality draft. Might not have the top end talent because especially quarterback, right? Like you look at Cam Ward, and he would be behind Bo Nix last year. So would Shedeur Sanders. So would Jackson Dart. It's just not that type of draft.
All right, let's get back to Oregon. Again, I want to stick on the offensive line. There's a lot of new faces, Jeff. 4 new starters with Poncho, the only returner. We can talk about Isaiah World and Emmanuel Pregnon, but I want to start on the other side. I forget where I heard you say it. It might have been by the way of Dan Rubenstein on the Solid Verbal, who actually we are having on next week as our guest, which would be fun. I don't want to put words in your mouth, so please correct me if this is not your opinion. But from what I remember you saying, you don't see Alex Harkey as a tackle.
I do not.
You see him more as a guard. Why is that? Where do you see him slotting in?
Look, I mean, I could be wrong. I think he's playing tackle, and so reports are he's doing well. But again, the reports, who knows, right? We'll see. We have a spring game coming up, but we'll get to watch it a little bit. I just don't think he has the movement skills to pass protect at this level. I just don't see it off his film from Texas State. Now, of course, it can change at Oregon, and they can put some foot speed in him and get in the weight room and whatnot. But just off of the film that I saw from his time at Texas State, I just don't see those pass protection movement skills. Now he has a fantastic punch. He's super. If he gets to you, if his hands come on you, you're going to lose the rep. I just think that when you look at his pass protection, his feet are a little bit slow. It reminds me honestly of myself, like strong, good hands, but he's going to miss a little bit on the edge because he's not very fast, not very quick. That's why I think he's a guard. But you look at kind of where Oregon is right now, and you say, okay, let's put our 5 best out there, right? We know the left side and center is set. You feel like right guard's going to be Dave, right? And then you say, okay, well, is it Wilson or is it Harkey? I think in an ideal world, Wilson wins that job, right? You want the guy that you brought in as a young player to develop and be that guy at right tackle. I don't think you want to have to go portal as often as they have. I think that would be great if Wilson wins the job, but Harkey might be the guy. I mean, I don't know. I haven't, obviously I don't watch Oregon practice film. I haven't talked to AT at all about any of this, but I just, based off of what I saw in film, I thought he would play guard, and we'll see what happens. Obviously, right now, I think he's still a tackle.
I'll push back a little bit too. I think that the right guard, it's between Dave and Bedford. Coming into this year, I mean, Bedford missed all last season with injury. It sounds like he's 100% healthy, and we talked to him and Terry over the weekend, and they're, glowing reviews right now. So I wouldn't be shocked if it's him.
But don't see, this is the thing. This is I think the kind of catch-22. Like you want your young guys to play, right? Like I think on the defensive line, it's great this year. That sounds like they're going to have all these young guys play, right? Like that's what I think what you want. You want guys that you recruit and develop. The portal is obviously fine. It's worked well for Oregon. I think actually, I don't think Landon gets enough credit for the home runs he's hit in the portal. I mean, how many guys have come in and they good immediately? Like there are very few guys. I think last year, I mean, was Alexander like the only portal player who didn't play besides Dante Moore who wasn't supposed to play? Like all these guys, Jay Harris didn't play very much, but he's a Division II kid. Like all these guys play immediately. He's done a great job of portaling. I think, again, I think you would hope Dave wins a job. Bedford was going to start last season, so maybe they go back to that. Because I think Bedford's a 1-year guy, as we know. Dave still has multiple years left. I think you would love, again, if Wilson and Dave win those jobs. But I will say, right, like you look at the way they started last season, and I would imagine that's in the back of their heads. Like, we can't start slow again. We need to come out with our best line immediately. And look, they do rotate, which I don't always love, but I get there's a purpose in that. Look, Montana State should be a game where you do get opportunities for multiple guys to get a chance. And then obviously, I forget who's next. I know Oklahoma State's at one point there. I think you want your unit set obviously by the Northwestern trip.
I got a chance to talk to Marcus Harper, offensive lineman.
Yeah.
like a month ago, maybe. I actually connected him with Ryan Khalil. He wants to try playing center. And I told
Okay.
him to try learning all the positions possible, right?
Yes.
The more you know, so that way you can be able to be, planted in certain situations. But, speaking to last year, he was talking about how, those first 3 weeks were so hard because
Yeah.
no one really knew who was starting going in, right? No one really knew kind of like the chemistry and the mold of how they were going to be playing with the
Yeah.
injuries to Bedford, the new additions here and there, whatever it is. Talk to me about the what it means to have
Yeah.
chemistry on offense, especially at
Yeah.
the offensive line, and where does that chemistry start, and how does
Well,
it trickle
yeah.
out?
Well, it starts by hanging out off the field, right? That's where it
Right.
starts, right? You go and you have barbecues together and you go out
Mm-hmm.
and have a couple adult beverages. I mean, look, only for 21, of course. And, like you have,
Beverages.
yeah, you go float the river in the summers, like you
I
just have
remember
these,
floating the river and
yeah,
having my first beer with you
yeah. I mean, that was,
at
yeah,
Dante's
you
house.
should just, you should just be like offensive lineman, defense lineman. By the time I left, it was like a whole group of people were floating the river. Um, and so, that's where it starts. And I think in practice, look, having Poncho as your solidified center is a huge deal this year, right? Bigford, Pickford, yeah,
Pickard,
Pickard,
Charlie
Pickard.
Pickard,
Look, a great story, just not a Division One offensive lineman to play at
walk
Oregon.
on.
Like, it's
Yeah,
just not. It's not good. That was, I think, a big problem the first couple of weeks is that he had to play center, and then Poncho was playing guard. He's not a guard either. Like that, both of those guys were struggling. So having your center in there to be back is hugely impactful. And where it really matters is on game day, right? Because like you have rules, right? So we have rules in the run game and the pass game. They have to be followed because we have to know what we're doing, but also the back has to know the rules and the quarterback, right? And, in the first couple of games, man, the rules just weren't followed. It just weren't followed. Um, and there were guys running free and guys not being blocked, and because you're going to see things in a game that you have not practiced for. That's just what the game is, and of course you hope it doesn't work out that way. So you have to go back to your rules. Okay, well we have the Mike and the Will. Okay, well here come the Mike and Will, but they don't really come the way we thought they're going to come. But we know we have those two guys. Like you have to know these things, and having a center like Poncho is hugely important, especially with a quarterback in Dante Moore who didn't play last year, right? So Dylan Gabriel's played a lot of football. Dante Moore hasn't. And so it's hugely important with all these new guys that your center is that guy that can really help you out. And then, of course, the communication part of it, right? You develop your own language when you play next to someone for a long time. So you don't have to say, hey, have a deuce block here. Like you don't have to say those things, which kind of give it away to the defense.
The
You just say, hey,
defense
man,
like, yo, they got a deuce
yeah,
block on you, boy. You better switch over.
because like the defensive line knows like three of our calls, right? They know deuce, they know ace, and they know basically B block, right? Which is a backside scoop, maybe A block. So like when I played in the NFL with Marshall Newhouse with the Giants, who was a veteran player, like we just said to each other, like, you're good. That was it. Like, you're good. Like, we didn't make calls because you should have to do that, right? If you know what you're doing. And so I think that's an important part here is just these guys they might not have played all together. Worlds play a lot of football. The kid from USC play a lot of football. Ponchos play a lot of football now. Right guard hasn't. If it is Bedford, it will be. And Harkey, like they play a lot of football together, not just figuring out your own language. And I know they do a good job of hanging out and whatnot. So I'm not as concerned about that. I just think, look, the group is better on paper than last year's group to start the season. Again, like Charlie, great story, just cannot be your center if you're trying to win a championship, So they're starting from a better base this season.
Real quick before we move on to a different position group, Jay Stu's very high on Isaiah World. I love
He's
Pregnon.
incredible.
I mean, we're both excited about them. Just your kind of instant takeaways, your instant analysis of both of those guys.
The first time I watch a World play, I texted my buddy Duke Manyweather and said he'll be a top 10 pick next season. I know there's a part of Oregon Twitter that doesn't think he's any good. Maybe they watched a different film than I watched. Dude he's a stud. He needs to get stronger. That's certainly true. He's not great in the run game, but he is an all-world pass protector. He is incredible. He is you watch, and Stu watches a bunch of film too. Like you turn the film on, and there's players that you watch, and they just move differently, and they do. You're like, oh, like that's my first. I was like, okay. Like yes, his feet are, and he's got super long arms. Again, the thing is the same thing. Got stronger. He needs 6 months in Oregon's weight room, and the reports from practice seem like they're super positive from World. I mean, he just got stronger. That's it. But dude is an all-world pass protector, and NFL teams are going to love him because he is super long, super tall, and he moves so well. Like when you watch him in the Nevada film, like just the redirects, anytime someone counters on him, anytime there's a game, there's a pressure, like his movement, again, his lack of run blocking skills, I think, come from two things. One, he's just long levered, he's tall and long levered.
Yeah.
But two, like you have to learn how to use your hips and arms at the same time. Like if you hit someone and your hips are behind you, no power is there, right? If you hit someone, your hips are too far in front of you, no power. You have to time everything up at the same time to strike, and that's part of just practice. It's what AT's job is going to have to be to figure it out for him. I think he's fantastic, and I've gotten arguments with Oregon Twitter over this. I don't know what film they've watched. I'm glad Stu agrees with me. Like it's very noticeable in film that his movement skills are great.
As an offensive coordinator too, in the run game, you can almost like help him in the run game, right?
Of course.
With certain play calls. I mean, draw comes to mind.
I mean, yeah, but like there was when we were in the NFL, like this is not even that long ago. Like you ran power to the right and zone to the left because your left tackle typically was a little bit lighter, and like that was what everyone knew you were doing it. You're running because the right tackle tended to be a little heavier, a little bigger. You run power to the right and you run zone to the left. I mean, like you can do this nowadays, and with RPOs too. Like you can have blocks where he's not blocking anybody but a linebacker. I mean, there's so many ways to do this. I think our running backs are so good, dude. This Ruggs kid. Is it Ruggs?
Riggs.
I wish I had better name recognition.
You're fine. That's what we're here for.
What he came in was against Washington when he came in, or Illinois, one of those games. He looked like
the
the
Washington
best
game.
He looked like the best player on the field.
Yeah,
like he looked like the best player on the field. Like dude,
what I've been saying.
Stu says that he's got some Kenyon Barner, Michael James to him, and I agree.
He came on the field, and again, like the thing about watching film, like he stood out. Like he played faster than all of the 21 other guys in the field. And I guess it was backups. I don't give a shit. He looked so much. He had that 30-yard run, like effort 30-yard run. And so, like I think our run game is going to be fine. I'm not concerned much about the offensive line and sort of new running backs.
While we're on the run game topic, Mekhi Hughes from Tulane. Just any thoughts on him? I mean, it's a non-Power 4 conference from Tulane, but just curious. He looks good.
He's a good football player. I mean, look, you need to have different guys. And the thing about the run game too is like it's one of those things where you might go in a season thinking one guy is going to be your guy, and you get to week 4 and someone's better than him. But also that's a position that unfortunately gets beat up. The guys get hurt, and so having 3 deep is hugely important there. But he's a guy that I want to see. We didn't do it much last year. Like there wasn't much of a running back screen game. It's hard, to be fair. It's hard to execute in college. It's just hard to do in the NFL. It's harder in college. You need practice time, and you just don't have that much time. He's a good running back in space, like on screens and stuff. Like I think that's would be nice to add back to the offense.
One final question on Oregon before we transition. Spring game a couple weeks away. Outside of just the quarterback play, because that's an easy answer. What are you kind of just most excited to see? What do you want to see the most? And you can talk. We haven't talked about quarterbacks at all. So if you want to talk about more and Novosad, please do. But
I mean, obviously, I think we all want to see more, but I guess the other more. I mean, look, Dan Lanning has not played a lot of young players on offense in his time. Specifically, just really he hasn't. Right, we've had guys come in as wide receivers, 4- and 5-star kids, and I was told early on that not from someone on the staff, but someone close to the program, that Moore is the best one we've had. And all these teams are very particular about what social media clips they share. And they've made certain to show more on the field and catching the ball with the ones. Like they've made that point to make that be there. So I want to see him play in that setting. The other wide receivers I just want to sort of see. Right, Evan Stewart. I think last year we didn't get the most out of him last year. Look, I want to make this point kind of very clear. Dylan Gabriel is a fine college quarterback. You only have a certain amount of things you can do with him. So I would like to see the offense with someone that can do more and Dante Moore. Like it's just the truth of it. Dylan Gabriel could not throw over the middle of the field. He couldn't see. There's nothing wrong with that inherently, but we're going to see a different offense. I know fans were like, "Oh, Will Stein can't throw the ball." It's there's plenty of deep shots available with a different quarterback. Bo Nix threw the ball deep all the time. Okay, like there's this offense is going to be different. We saw in very limited reps last year Dante Moore's arm talent and ability. There was that whole shot he missed against Washington, I think it was. It wasn't really
Mhm.
his. It's more of a working with just guys more often.
It's a connection
Even
thing, yeah.
right. Even with was it the Big Ten championship game where they did the double
The
pass
double
and Dante Moore
pass, yeah.
threw it away. He threw that
Mhm.
ball like 75 yards, like on like an easy throw out of bounds. Like there's just the arm talent is so there. So I think it's just making sure you reel in some of the bad tendencies of him, right? Because when you have an arm talent that good, you try to do too much, and you don't want to pull it back all the way. Interceptions, guys, to me are not the worst thing in the world because sometimes you
Fun.
want a quarterback to be aggressive. You like him to throw the ball down the field. So that's and then I think on defense, we're young at linebacker. I want to see those guys play. I think I'm fine. We're young at defensive tackle, and that's fine with me. I mean, I think those guys are going to be good. And then just sort of finding nickel corner and whatnot. But to me, linebacker, if linebacker can be better, I know there's a lot of hope these young linebackers are good, and we've heard a lot of good things about them. That's just a huge upgrade for the defense because again, I'm not worried about defensive line. I'm not worried about secondaries much with the portal players that were brought in. It's linebacker to me. If linebacker can fill the run a little bit, can play with a little faster, that to me is hugely important to the success of the defense.
Going back to quarterbacks a little bit, one thing that I've talked to Jay Stu a lot about, I'm so curious to see how kind of what you were saying, how this offense looks different, not just in the downfield passing, but in the fact that Dylan and Bo were, at least semi-mobile quarterbacks.
Yeah,
Dante is not a very mobile quarterback. Austin Novosad is not a very mobile quarterback. They
yeah,
can run. That doesn't mean they can't, but I don't think they're going to be running a ton of RPOs with these guys. I may be completely wrong. Maybe they've got that
yeah.
in their game this year, but I'm just curious how that changes Will
Well,
Stein's scheme.
Well, there's many different RPOs, right? Like there's and Dylan Gabriel didn't run the ball a lot last season. Relative to what I think he could, right? I mean, the RPO is it's a run, it's basically a run with the running back or a pass option, right? You can have like the run, right, where you run or run. But I think the RPO is gonna be a huge part of what they do still. It helps the offensive line out. It also just overly aggressive defenses. You get the wide receiver behind those guys. Finding the next Tez Johnson, and maybe that is more in the slot, sort of that guy we saw in the Penn State game, how important the RPO was to that. So I think we're going to see them. We're just not going to see the quarterback part of it, right? So it's going to be a run with a running back or a pass. They won't have that triple option feature built in. And then you look, Moore is not slow. So you save it for 3rd and 1 in a big game, 4th and 1 in a big game when no one's expecting it, right? I mean, the Chiefs have done this with Patrick Mahomes. Like you wait for that moment and you slide them on in and you have them do that. It's fine. I mean, you don't have to have an offense that uses the back, but you have to be more creative. I'm excited to just see the passing game. I think go
Mhm.
back to what we saw with Bo Nix.
I agree. All right, let's transition real quick to a broader college football topic before we get out of here. The Nico situation at Tennessee is
Yeah,
wild. I know you've been keeping tabs on it while on vacation. For those who don't know, Tennessee quarterback Nico Iamaleava, who is already signed for reportedly like 2 million per year at Tennessee out of high school before even playing a snap. He held out of the final spring practice a day before the spring game, trying to get more money. Reportedly, he wanted around 4 million per year, and Tennessee decided to release him. They said that no player is bigger than the program here. We're good. Off the top, your thoughts? Do you agree with what Tennessee did? Do you agree with what Nico did? Just kind of what's your opinion on all of this?
um, I I I think a net with Tennessee. I think in this instance where um, you have to know your leverage, like this is a brand new world, right? I mean, we're 4 years in will be July, and even the first year there wasn't much NIL like there is now. And look, it's a negotiation, right? This is basically what happens in pro sports. You say to someone, "Hey, I want to make more money." The other side says, "No, I don't want to do that." And in this instance, they just split up, and this is the first time it's happened at this level, right? And it's happened at smaller levels in college football, but not at the quarterback. And plus, Nico, he was the poster boy for the new NIL, right? Getting this giant contract that didn't feel like NIL ish, felt more like pay for play, which is what we know that this has turned into. And so I think I'd probably net with Tennessee here, where it's like, look, man, we're giving you $2 million a year, and you didn't play well in maybe the biggest games of the season. And they're gonna have to find a new home. Nico will find a new home, and Tennessee will find a new quarterback. And people, dude, the think pieces this week on social media just like gagged me. Dude, like, come on, guys, like, dude, like, look, this is brand new. It's gonna figure itself out. And this was one of the deals where we talked about it, at least I did on Pac-12 Radio when we had it, was like, look, these big businessmen that are funding these business women that are funding these NILs, like, they're going to get to a point where they're going to say, you're not worth that money. We're not getting championships, and it'll correct itself. And this is sort of the first part of that correction. Everyone that says we need regulations, well, the people that are arguing about that are the same people that wanted open transfer and NIL, like, did not expect anything to happen. Of course, what was going to happen. It's going to be messy. It was always going to be messy. So, I think it'll work itself out in the end. Nico will find a home. Tennessee will find a quarterback, and this might be the start of standoffs happening. But I will tell you, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think that maybe this is a lesson for both sides. Like, let's not get to a point where we have to end up splitting like this. It doesn't really help anybody in the end. So I think I side a little bit with Tennessee here. But look, man, Nico's trying to use his leverage as he should. But like the self-righteousness of people on the internet about this thing, like, come on, man. Like, the same people that, again, that wanted this system are upset the way the system is working, and they're asking the people that made the system to stop the system. It's like so silly to me. It'll work itself out. It's not a big deal.
So I'm just curious. Imagine, you guys both played obviously college and NFL football. Imagine you're a player in that locker room. Not to sully his name, just as an example, but say Dennis did this in your final year while you guys were playing. What would your reaction be like as players in that locker room?
Well, I put out this tweet, and I don't know if Tennessee fans liked it, but it was just more just like thinking about it, right? Like, think about when NIL became a thing again, one of the common refrains was like, how are these guys going to handle it in the locker room if someone's getting paid more than someone else? And my thing was like, well, how do you handle it in pro sports? Like, that's not it's a thing only in people's minds. Most of us are smart enough to understand where we sit on the pay scale. Like, a backup guard is not going to be like, I should be paid like the quarterback. Of course not. But the issues, right. But the issues arise again in this situation because I would imagine that players on Tennessee are not upset he's making $2 million. I don't think that's the case. And maybe they rumble behind his back about he's getting paid too much money. But the fact is, it's like, dude, like, we're in this together. You're making a ton of money, and now you're asking for more money. And like, you're not with us in this process. I think like, that's more the concern to me. I think in a locker room, you lose a locker room that way, right? Again, they're fine with him making the money as is, but now you're asking for more on top of that. And like, you didn't play well in the biggest games of the season. So I can understand that not sitting well, and then skipping stuff. Like, we had the first basically holdout in college football. So I would imagine in this instance, it didn't sit well with the locker room. But I think in general, it's not a problem, man. Dude, backups are making six figures now. Like, there's not a problem in the locker room with money. Yeah, guys make more. That's the way pro sports is too. And it's a production business. If you don't produce, people will be upset you're making all that money. I think in this instance, again, he's making a ton of money and asking for more without the results. That's where probably the locker room didn't love it.
Yeah, I'm on the same side there when it comes to, I remember when Dennis went to go play MLB.
Baseball,
got drafted. And I was stoked. I was like, man, go for it, and let us know how how the experience was, right?
But he also wasn't good. Like, he was coming off 2006 where we all sucked that season.
Yeah.
And so so I don't know. No one like even thought that Dennis was going to be the quarterback he ended up being. So like, I think a lot of us were just like, yeah, cool, man. Like, come back whenever. Like, I don't know. Like, we'll see when you. I don't even know who we thought was going to be our starting quarterback. I think we expected to have a competition between Brady Leaf and Dennis Dixon again. And then Dennis came back and was a new person.
A new person. But, the Nico situation, I get it. Because really what they are creating an environment that is pro status. Let's put it that way, right?
Yeah.
Whenever you hear the terms, the Tennessee Volunteers have released a player, that sounds like an NFL term.
Oh yeah, it's certainly a pro model, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think, and like, when it comes to these contracts, whether these NIL deals that they're coming up with, I think if they figure out a way to make this thing incentive based, now you're holding these kids accountable for what you're giving them, right? If they can figure out a way to just fix that, I think you start to figure it does take care of itself. Because if we do nothing, it's not just going to take care of itself. You got to figure out ways and where you can punch a hole through and say, "Hey, this is a leak. We're going to cover it up, and this is how we're going to cover it up."
Yeah,
And
I think you're right
you got
about
to
that.
patch this. You got to
Yeah,
patch this thing as it goes, because if you don't, right now, like you have a water bed, that thing gonna be deflated. You're gonna have just a bunch of plastic. So you got to make sure you cover these holes as you go, and then maybe it does play itself out while it still carries that authenticity of what we love about college football. Because right now, that the vibes right now in that locker room for Tennessee is like, yo, should I be thinking like Nico? Or
yeah,
should
yeah,
or like because if he's trying to go get his best buck, maybe I should go get my best buck. There's definitely a couple kids on that in that locker room that are thinking that way, and then there's the kids that are like, well, I'm not a Nico. I'm here because I love college football and I want to make sure I have the best college experience as possible, and maybe I'll get a chance to play in the league. So you have those guys that understand, I look at Austin Novosad, talking to him. He's a kid that gets it. He's like, man, I'm here for the college experience. I'm here to get better as a player. That's why I chose Oregon, and I'm here through the thick of it, right? And but then you have other kids that are not like that. They're here because I came from this situation. I got people back home. This might be my only opportunity. Um,
yeah,
and the world's going upside down. Who knows what's going on? Like kids are smarter than what I was for sure in college.
yeah.
They probably know what's going on with tariffs and all these other things, right? So like get your ducks in line, baby. I need that money. Give me that paycheck.
Yeah, I think that we don't give enough credit to the players and how business savvy they are now, right? Because we just
Mm-hmm.
weren't that way because we didn't have to deal with this type of thing, and they have to now, right? That's just the way the game has evolved, and so they're better suited for this. Look, Oregon's in a unique situation, I think, because um, I know as much as people think that Oregon pays the most for every single player, it's just not the case. And I think that you have to, as a player, you have to choose somewhere you want to be. Yes, the money is important, and there are certain situations where I do think Oregon does pay the most for certain players. I think there might be an offensive lineman coming to visit in a couple of weeks that's probably a situation like you have to pay the most to get them. Like
Mhm.
there are certain guys that are like that. But 90% are not, right. You're giving them competitive money compared to other schools, and you choose the place because you like it, and then you stay there because you're getting your money on time, which I think Oregon, it's not talked about enough. There's how well run their collective is. They're paying these players when they're supposed to, and everyone's they're all happy. And but I think the coaches don't bullshit these guys. They don't tell them they're going to start when they're not going to start, and all those things are important, I think, to keeping it together. I mean, Oregon has not lost many players who are going to play, right? I mean, just the guys sort of stay there. Novus is a good example. Like, I think a lot of other situations, he's gone. We get all the reports in practice about how good he's been practicing. Maybe Tennessee calls up, I don't know, but they're able to keep these players. I think they like being there. It's not just about the money.
Yeah, Oregon has yet to lose a starter to the transfer portal under the Dan Lanning era. Like
Yeah,
that speaks for itself. And I mean,
absolutely.
like you said, the Purdue transfer, Dylan Thieneman, he's a great example. He said that he turned down more money to come to Oregon because he wanted to get developed and he saw what Oregon does with transfer portal players and putting them into the NFL. So he's like, all right, I want to go spend 1 year
Yeah,
there and up my draft stock. So
absolutely.
um, I think it's great. Jace, do you got anything else for Jeff before we get out of here?
No, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
glad to
man,
be
this
here.
is incredible.
Enjoy your
Thank you.
time next week. The draft, the
Will do.
spring game. I wish I
No,
was going to the spring game, but it's so far away.
I,
Uh,
I, I mean, maybe someone from Charlotte's taking a private plane. We could hop on Friday
Maybe.
or something. You got a draft show to do though. I think you're on
Yeah, I
the
got a
Panthers
draft
draft
show
show. Yeah.
Friday morning. Um, You're going up to the draft on Thursday?
I'm just going to New York for work for Fox, so I'll be there. I'll be up in New York on Wednesday through Friday. So, but yeah, I mean, look, the draft's so much fun to watch and whatnot. So I'm looking forward to it.
Well, there's a free golf round in Eugene for both of you if you guys make it out here.
I'll be there. I'm coming
Saturday.
Whenever you want.
I'm coming to the Montana State game, so that I will be out there with my family for that game for certain. I know that.
All right. Well, we'll hopefully see you guys then. Jeff, thank you again for coming on and spending so much time with us. We appreciate the insight. We'll talk soon. All right.
All right. Take care, guys. Have a good one.
All right.